The UHS Resolve sliced through the endless black, its hull glowing faintly as plasma shields absorbed the residual heat of nearby star systems. Inside the command bridge, a faint hum of activity permeated the tense air. Commander Elise Varen stood at the center, her dark hair pulled into a sharp braid. The faint holographic glow of the fleet's tactical map illuminated her determined face. "Enemy ships closing in," Lieutenant Callum Reyes reported, his voice steady but taut. 37 Imperial cruisers and 1 dreadnought. They'll be in firing range in 2 minutes. Elise's gaze flicked to the tactical display. The Imperial fleet formed an imposing wall of red markers, steadily advancing toward her much smaller force. Despite the odds, she smiled, a thin, calculating expression. "They're overconfident," she said. "As always." She turned to her weapons officer. "Lieutenant Marks, are the decoy drones ready?" "Primed and awaiting launch, Commander." "Good. On my mark, send them forward. Let the Empire think we're retreating." A murmur rippled through the bridge, but no one questioned her. They trusted her instincts, honed by years of unconventional victories against the Galactic Empire. Elise had made a name for herself by exploiting the rigidity of the Empire's tactics. To them, battle was a chess game with predictable moves. Elise played by her own rules. The ship shuddered as the first Imperial volley streaked past. Elise clasped her hands behind her back, her voice calm. "Hold our position. Make them think we're cornered. They're locking weapons on us," Reyes warned, glancing up from his console. "Let them," Elise replied. The Resolve held its ground, shields flaring under the concentrated fire. Around them, smaller human ships scattered, appearing to flee in panic. The Empire's fleet surged forward, tightening the noose. "Drones away," Marks reported. On the tactical display, a cluster of false signals erupted from the rear of the human formation, mimicking the signatures of fleeing capital ships. The Empire took the bait. Their formation splintered as a third of their fleet peeled off to pursue the decoys. "Now!" Elise snapped. "All ships, converge and fire on their right flank!" The bridge exploded into action. Orders were shouted, consoles beeped, and the hum of the engines intensified as the fleet surged forward. Human ships emerged from the chaos, targeting the exposed side of the Imperial formation. Elise watched the screen intently, her fists clenched as the first salvo of torpedoes struck home. Imperial cruisers buckled under the coordinated assault, their shields collapsing in brilliant bursts of light. "We've breached their flank!" Reyes shouted, excitement creeping into his voice. "Don't let up," Elise ordered. "Push them back. And keep an eye on that dreadnought, it's the real threat." As if on cue, the Empire's massive flagship, the Aegis of Dominion, loomed into view. Its sheer size dwarfed the human fleet, its weapons glowing ominously as they charged. "They're preparing a superweapon discharge," Reyes warned. Elise's heart pounded, but her expression remained stoic. "Divert all power to shields. Evade on my mark. Marks, I need every gun on that thing." The Aegis unleashed its fury. A beam of crackling energy shot toward the Resolve, blindingly bright against the void. Elise's voice cut through the chaos. "Hard starboard! Now!" The ship lurched violently, narrowly avoiding the beam. The shockwave sent smaller ships spinning, but the Resolve held steady. "Return fire!" Elise shouted. The Resolve unleashed a torrent of missiles and plasma bursts, joined by the rest of the fleet. The Aegis absorbed the barrage, its shields flickering but holding. Elise's mind raced. They couldn't win a direct fight with the dreadnought. "Status on the ion lance?" she asked, referring to the experimental weapon housed aboard the Resolve. "Fully charged," Marks replied. "Good. Target their main reactor and fire when ready." The Resolve powered up the ion lance, its hull vibrating as the weapon's energy built to a crescendo. A piercing beam shot from the ship's prow, slicing through the void and striking the Aegis. The dreadnought shuddered as its shields failed, and explosions rippled across its surface. The Imperial fleet faltered, their tight formation breaking apart as panic spread. "They're retreating," Reyes announced, disbelief in his voice. Elise exhaled slowly, her shoulders relaxing for the first time. Let them go. We've made our point. The bridge erupted in cheers, but Elise's gaze remained on the tactical display. The Aegis drifted, crippled but not destroyed. They had bought humanity time, but the Empire would be back. And next time, they would come with something worse. The celebration in the mess hall was subdued. The crew had won a hard-fought battle, but the cost weighed heavily on them. Elise sat at a corner table, nursing a cup of coffee and scanning casualty reports. Reyes slid into the seat across from her, his expression as grim as her own. 72 ships lost, he said quietly. Thousands of lives. Elise nodded, her fingers tightening around the mug. And millions more saved. It's never an easy balance, Callum. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. They're calling this a victory. But we both know this is just the beginning. She met his gaze, her eyes hard. Then we'll fight harder. Smarter. The Empire thinks they've seen the best of us. They're wrong. Before Reyes could respond, a junior officer approached, saluting nervously. Commander, urgent communication from command. You're needed on the bridge. Elise rose, setting her mug aside. Let's go. Back on the bridge, the mood was tense. The communication screen displayed an image of Admiral Rena Carter, head of the United Human Systems Defense Navy. Her expression was grave. Commander Varant, Carter said without preamble, we've just received confirmation. The Empire has deployed a planet-killer weapon. They've targeted Novus Prime. Elisa's stomach sank. Novus Prime was a densely populated colony, home to over 10 million people. What's the status of the colony? Destroyed, Carter replied bluntly. Completely obliterated. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Elise closed her eyes briefly, forcing herself to remain composed. How long until they can deploy it again? Unknown, Carter said. But we've managed to obtain intelligence on its power source. It's vulnerable, Commander. I want you to lead the operation to take it out. Elise's jaw tightened. Consider it done, Admiral. As the screen went dark, Elise turned to her crew. We've just taken their best shot and survived. Now it's our turn to hit back. The bridge came alive with determination. Elise's voice cut through the clamor, steady and resolute. Prepare for battle. Humanity isn't just surviving this war. We're winning it. The silence on the bridge of the UHS Resolve was deafening as the news sank in. Novus Prime, once a thriving beacon of human ingenuity, was gone, reduced to nothing but ash and debris. Elise Varant stood motionless at the center of the bridge, her knuckles white as she gripped the railing. The words of Admiral Carter echoed in her mind. Asterisk destroyed. Completely obliterated. Asterisk. Commander? Lieutenant Reyes broke the silence, his voice hesitant. Your orders? Elise turned slowly, her expression carved from stone. Summon the senior staff. We'll meet in the war room in 15 minutes. The officers dispersed, each wearing the same grim determination. Elise stayed behind for a moment, staring at the holographic map of Novus Prime. She traced her fingers along the empty space where the colony used to be, anger simmering beneath her calm exterior. The war room was a stark contrast to the bustling bridge. The dim lighting cast shadows over the faces of the assembled officers, their expressions somber but resolute. A hologram of the Imperial weapon floated above the central table, a massive construct with spiked edges and a pulsating core of energy at its center. This is our target, Elise began, her voice cutting through the tension. The Empire's planet killer. Intelligence indicates that its power source is a core reactor housed within a fortified facility in the Darios system. Reyes leaned forward, scanning the hologram. What defenses are we looking at? Heavy, Elise replied. The facility is protected by orbital platforms, automated turrets, and a fleet of Imperial ships. Getting in won't be easy. Dr. Marin Clark, the ship's chief scientist, adjusted her glasses as she studied the projection. If we can disable the reactor, the weapon will be rendered useless. But we'll need precise coordination. One mistake, and the whole facility could go up before we're clear. And how do we even get close? Asked Lieutenant Marks, the weapons officer. Their sensors will pick us up the moment we enter the system. Elise let the question hang in the air for a moment. We go in quiet. A stealth ship will take a small team to infiltrate the base. Once inside, we plant charges on the reactor and get out before they realize what's happening. The room fell silent as the gravity of the plan settled over them. Finally, Reyes spoke. It's a suicide mission. Elise met his gaze, her voice firm. It's a mission to save lives. Every second that weapon exists is a threat to every colony we have left. If we don't act now, there won't be a humanity left to protect. Reyes nodded reluctantly, though the tension in his jaw betrayed his unease. The following hours were a whirlwind of preparation. The Resolve S engineers worked tirelessly to outfit the stealth ship, while Elise and her team reviewed every detail of the infiltration plan. In the quiet of the officers' lounge, Reyes found Elise staring out at the endless expanse of stars. You should rest, he said, his tone softer than usual. Elise didn't look away from the viewport. Rest can wait. Right now, every moment counts. He stepped closer, his voice low. This isn't just about the mission, is it? She sighed, finally turning to face him. Novus Prime wasn't just another colony, Callum. It was my home, once. Before Proxima Haven. Before the fleet. My parents lived there. Reyes's eyes widened, but he said nothing, letting her continue. I can't bring them back, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I can make sure the Empire pays for what they've done. You're not alone in this, Reyes said firmly. We're with you. All of us. For the first time in hours, a faint smile crossed her lips. I know. And that's why we'll succeed. The infiltration began under the cover of a dense asteroid field surrounding the Dario's system. The stealth ship, a sleek, black craft nicknamed the Shadow Stalker, glided silently through the void. Elise sat in the cockpit beside the pilot, her team of 6 strapped in behind her. Approaching the target, the pilot whispered, her fingers dancing across the controls. Keeping us in the sensor dead zone. The facility loomed ahead, a sprawling structure bristling with weaponry and shrouded in the eerie glow of the reactor core. Stay sharp, Elise said, her voice steady. We get in, plant the charges, and get out. No detours. The Shadow Stalker docked with the facility, its magnetic clamps securing it to an airlock. The team disembarked swiftly, their boots silent on the metal floor. Reyes took point, scanning the corridors with a handheld sensor. No movement. Yet. They moved as one, their training evident in their fluid motions. The air inside the facility was cold and sterile, the hum of machinery the only sound. Reactor room is 2 levels down, Elise whispered. Let's move. The first sign of trouble came as they approached the reactor chamber. A patrol of Imperial guards rounded the corner, their weapons gleaming under the harsh lights. Take them out quietly, Elise ordered. Reyes and another soldier moved swiftly, dispatching the guards with precision. The team dragged the bodies into a storage room before continuing. The reactor chamber was a cavernous space, dominated by the pulsating core. Its light bathed the room in an unnatural blue glow, casting long shadows across the walls. Dr. Clark approached the console, her fingers flying over the keys. I'll set the charges. Cover me. Elise and Reyes positioned themselves at the entrances, their weapons at the ready. The seconds dragged on, each moment stretching into an eternity. Almost there, Clark said, her voice tight with concentration. The sound of boots echoed down the corridor. Elise's heart sank. We've got company. Imperial soldiers poured into the chamber, weapons blazing. The team returned fire, the room erupting into chaos. Elise moved with practiced efficiency, her rifle picking off enemies with deadly precision. Charges are set, Clark shouted. We've got 5 minutes. Fall back, Elise ordered. The team fought their way back to the Shadow Stalker, the facility shaking as explosions began to ripple through its structure. As they reached the airlock, an Imperial officer stepped into their path, flanked by reinforcements. Elise recognized him instantly. High Warlord Ctherax. "Leaving so soon, Commander?" he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "Step aside," Elise said coldly, leveling her weapon at him. Ctherax chuckled. "You've caused quite a mess. But it's over. Surrender, and I might let some of your crew live." "Not today," Elise replied. Reyes tossed a flash grenade, the blinding light giving them the opening they needed. They sprinted to the Shadowstalker as alarms blared throughout the facility. The ship detached just as the reactor went critical. Behind them, the Imperial base erupted in a massive explosion, the shockwave rocking the Shadowstalker as it sped away. In the cockpit, Elise watched the destruction unfold, her expression unreadable. "Mission accomplished," Reyes said, sinking into his seat. Elise nodded, but her mind was already racing ahead. They had struck a blow against the Empire, but the war was far from over. The UHS Resolve orbited a desolate moon, its hull scarred from countless battles. On the bridge, the faint hum of machinery was underscored by the quiet murmurs of the crew. Commander Elise Varen stood at the center, her eyes locked on the star-studded void beyond the viewport. "Status report," she called, her voice firm but calm. Lieutenant Callum Reyes glanced up from his console. "Repairs are 70% complete. Shields are operational, but weapon systems are still offline." Elise nodded, her mind already calculating. The mission to destroy the Empire's planet killer had dealt a devastating blow, but she knew it wouldn't stop the war. The Empire never hesitated to escalate. A comms officer interrupted her thoughts. "Commander, incoming transmission from Admiral Carter." "Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the stern visage of Admiral Rena Carter. Her sharp eyes met Elise's. "Good work on the Dario's operation, Commander. You've bought us some time, but we have a new problem." Elise tensed. "What is it?" "The Empire is retaliating. Their fleet is mobilizing toward Proxima Haven. Our intelligence suggests they aim to destroy the colony completely." Elise's stomach twisted. Proxima Haven wasn't just a strategic outpost. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience. "How much time do we have?" 2 days, Carter replied. "You're the closest fleet. Reinforcements won't arrive in time." Elise's jaw tightened. "We'll hold the line. Do whatever it takes," Carter said. "Proxima Haven cannot fall." The transmission ended abruptly. Elise turned to her crew, her voice resolute. "Prepare for battle. This time, we make a stand." The next 24 hours were a blur of activity. Engineers worked tirelessly to restore the Resolve's weapon systems, while Elise and her officers mapped out defensive strategies. In the mess hall, morale was high despite the odds. The crew knew what was at stake, and they were ready to fight. Elise found Reyes in the war room, poring over holographic maps of Proxima Haven. "We're outnumbered 3-1, he said without preamble. "The Empire is sending everything they've got." "Good," Elise replied, her tone icy. "The more they send, the more we destroy." Reyes raised an eyebrow. "You have a plan, I take it?" Elise tapped the map, highlighting the asteroid belt surrounding Proxima Haven. "We use the terrain. The asteroids will give us cover and disrupt their formations. And if we time it right," she traced a path through the belt, "we can funnel them into a kill zone." Reyes frowned. "And if they don't take the bait?" "They will," Elise said. "The Empire thrives on arrogance. They'll see our smaller force and charge straight in." He leaned back, studying her. "You always seem so sure of yourself. Doesn't it ever scare you, being wrong?" Her gaze met his, unflinching. "Every time. But fear keeps me sharp." The Resolve arrived at Proxima Haven with hours to spare. The colony's shimmering domes were a stark contrast to the black void around it, fragile yet defiant. Elise addressed the crew over the intercom, her voice steady and unwavering. "This is it. The Empire thinks they can crush us, but they underestimate what it means to fight for survival. We are the line between them and the people of Proxima Haven. Let's show them what humanity can do." The cheers that erupted throughout the ship were short-lived. The Empire's fleet appeared on the sensors moments later, a wall of gleaming ships stretching as far as the eye could see. Enemy fleet approaching, Reyes reported. Range 70,000 kilometers. Hold position, Elise ordered. Wait for my signal. The Imperial ships advanced in perfect formation, their massive dreadnoughts flanked by smaller cruisers and frigates. They're entering the asteroid belt, Reyes said, his tone tense. Exactly where we want them, Elise murmured. As the Imperial fleet pressed forward, the Resolve and its allied ships powered down their engines, blending into the asteroid field like shadows. The Empire's sensors, designed for open combat, failed to detect the ambush waiting for them. No, Elise commanded. The Resolve powered up its engines, breaking from cover with a deafening roar. Plasma cannons erupted, slicing through the lead Imperial ships before they could react. Allied ships followed suit, emerging from the asteroids to unleash a coordinated assault. The Empire's formation dissolved into chaos. Ships collided with asteroids as they scrambled to evade fire, their tight ranks a liability in the dense field. They're trying to regroup, Reyes reported. Not on my watch, Elise said. Marks, target their command ship. The Resolve-S main cannon fired, a searing beam of energy tearing through the Imperial flagship's shields. Explosions rippled along its hull, and the once mighty vessel began to drift, flames consuming its interior. Direct hit! Marks shouted. Cheers erupted across the bridge, but Elise's focus remained on the battle. Don't get cocky. They'll double down now. As if on cue, an Imperial dreadnought emerged from the chaos, its weapons locking onto the Resolve. Brace for impact! Elise shouted. The ship shuddered violently as the enemy's plasma cannon struck its shields. Sparks flew from consoles, and alarms blared. Shields at 30%! Reyes called out. Return fire! Elise barked. The Resolve unleashed a salvo of torpedoes, striking the dreadnought's engines. The massive ship lurched, its weapons falling silent. Allied ships are mopping up the rest of their fleet, Reyes reported. But we've got another problem. The tactical display lit up with new markers. A second wave of Imperial reinforcements was approaching, another fleet, larger than the first. Elise's heart sank, but her voice remained steady. We hold the line. All ships form up on me. The second wave hit like a tidal wave, overwhelming the battered defenders. For every Imperial ship destroyed, another took its place. The Resolve fought valiantly, but the strain was beginning to show. Shields are failing, Reyes shouted. Divert power from auxiliary systems, Elise ordered. The ship groaned under the pressure, its hull buckling in places. Explosions rocked the bridge, and Elise was thrown to the floor. Commander, we can't hold much longer, Reyes said, helping her to her feet. Elise's mind raced. There had to be a way to turn the tide. Her eyes fell on the asteroid field. Reyes, she said, a spark of determination in her voice. What's the status of the asteroid cluster? He frowned, checking his console. Unstable. Why? She pointed to the tactical display. If we target the largest asteroids and collapse the field, we can take out half their fleet in one move. Reyes hesitated. That'll trap us too. Elise's gaze hardened. It's a risk we have to take. If we don't stop them here, Proxima Haven is finished. He nodded reluctantly. Understood. Marks, Elise called. Target the asteroid cluster and fire on my command. The Resolve-S weapons locked onto the largest asteroids, their engines glowing with stored energy.